Welcome back to the radio room. Continuing with the FT101E here. Done a bit of work on it. Not as much as I would like to have already had done, but you know, sometimes full-time job comes into play a lot quicker. As you can see on the screen here, I do have all the boards pulled out besides this board. Pulled out all the boards and the final tubes and the driver tube, and done quite a bit of cleaning. Got quite a collection of very dirty Q-tips here. This thing had a lot of dust in it. Things are a lot shinier. There is some surface rust in here. It's not too bad. Probably not going to do anything about that right now. Still haven't determined whether this radio is going to be worth totally fixing or not. I found some good things. I found some bad things. I haven't given up yet. I'm still doing a lot of cleaning. Pretty much got the chassis cleaned up and getting in here and on a lot of the boards, getting in here and cleaning up the boards themselves. They were pretty nasty. This thing's definitely been around some humidity or something over the years. I did find, and I was trying to remember what exactly I found that had a date on it. Maybe it was the fan. Yeah, it was the fan.
Engine 5. Engine 5, go ahead.
Let's see if I can get this so y'all can radio. Let me turn this other radio down. Forgot I had the other radios on. So, right here, I can get this to focus correctly. No, it's not going to focus. Doesn't seem like it wants to focus. There you go. The fan has a sticker on it. That's 9th of January 1975. So I am going to kind of go with this one. This radio was probably manufactured in 1975. So what's that make it? 49 years old as of right now. Nearly a 50-year-old radio. And to tell you the truth, I don't think it's really had any work done to it, so to speak, as far as repairs. Right here, there used to be a switch, which I'm grabbing right now. There used to be this switch in there. It was soldered in there like that, and it doesn't have any wires. It never had any, or didn't have any wires since I've had it hooked up to it. It's just a basically two-way switch here, and I'm wondering maybe that it was to switch some crystals out or something. Maybe this radio, and I've still got to go through all the crystals here and make sure they're in the right spots, make sure they're the right crystals in the right spots, to find out maybe there's an extra, a different crystal in here somewhere. That when you go to a certain band, it did a different frequency range than the original, where it was originally supposed to be out, that crystal. So I still got to pull those out. I'll clean them off as well. All the capacitors in here appear to be original. So if in the long run this radio does show promise, I'll probably do a recap on it. These two capacitors right here from what I've seen, don't come in a lot of the capacitor kits that you can purchase. So I'll probably have to get them separately. I've heard that they usually stay pretty good. But if I'm going to recap this radio, I'm going to probably change all the electrolytics in it. Like I said, I have pulled all the boards out. Another thing I have found, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see it in the camera very well, but all these brownish, reddish capacitors in here, I believe they're all mica capacitors, and they're starting to have the material they're dipped in is starting to crack. I can see cracks on several of these. There's this one here, this one here. I still need to clean this board up. I get the dust off of it and everything. But another thing I found in doing some research on the 101s is that these did start doing that quite often. So I'll have to go through and make a list of which values all these are and get replacements for them if we go that far. And of course all the electrolytics on that. That's the audio frequency board. Most of the boards don't look in bad shape. Here's the RF board. I have read that changing this transistor right here is sometimes prudent. But like I mentioned, right now we don't even know if how far this radio is going to go. We're going to take this really step by step in determining how far we want to go as far as rebuilding this radio. It could add up pretty quick. I mean, like I've mentioned before, unless there's just something that's not obtainable, you can pretty much fix anything in a radio like this, give or take. Just finding either suitable substitutes or the actual part. There is on the bottom over, let's see here. Well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this radio flipped over to see that or not. Let me see if I can flip it over carefully. One thing I will point out, I did straighten this back panel out somewhat. It was a lot wavier than that. I've gotten most of that straightened out. And of course over here where the DC to DC converter, this was an actual, this whole block here is basically just got two components mounted to it. This is the heatsink for them that handled the when you wanted to hook it into DC power, 13.8 volt DC power. These two transistors here basically just formed a low frequency oscillator in order to feed the transformer, so you could get your high voltages and all the voltages in the radio. So basically what it kind of did is that you put 13.8 volts in to this into the back of the radio. You'd use the same connector which is underneath here, just wired for DC. And when you applied the voltage, it would start basically an oscillator right here. The output of that is fed to, from what I can see on the schematic, the secondary of this on its own winding, which would induce voltages on both sides of the transformer, which would feed the other secondaries to produce your voltage. So this was bent in quite a bit. I've got it mostly straightened out. It's kind of back out where it's supposed to be. I think this radio may have been set down or pushed real hard from the back, and that's what kind of mangled this a little bit. But I think we're still in good shape on that. Like I said, I still got some more cleaning to do. I've mostly got the chassis cleaned. I was going to flip this radio over and hopefully be able to And I'm not sure you'll be able to see this or not. Pardon the camera movement. But down in here, see if I can get this in the camera view. Right here, see if this is actually on the camera. That's not a shadow right there. That black right at the end of my tweezers. That's black. There's also a spot right here on this white component that's not paint. That's not anything. That's soot. The resistors themselves, there's two resistors right there, and they actually tie into the DC to ZC converter. I'm guessing that maybe they've been replaced. I haven't pulled this board out yet and looked at the back side of it to see if it looks like they've been changed. But something got very hot right there. The board's black. The other one's black. So it looked like probably this resistor right here. And I want to say those are... Well, let me look it up on the schematic real quick. Let me see if I can find those real quick. Let me get the camera back up. Maybe we can look at this together. And hopefully nobody is having motion sickness from me moving the camera around. Let me find this on the schematics here. Let me turn this off, see if that's a little easier for y'all to see. Just printed these out. Sometime what I'm going to actually do with these is these will connect to each other. I just got to get them in the right order, and I'll tape them together. I'll have one big schematic instead of individual pages. Let me find the spot that has that right here. So those two white resistors in there are right here. It's these two together. So they are 3.3 ohm, it looks like. And they go to the emitters on those two transistors that are on the back of it. So these have to do with the DC to ZC conversion part. I've kind of looked through this and traced out. It gets a little interesting. There's two different connectors here. This is the one on the back of the radio. This one is wired up for AC. This one's wired up if you're running it on DC. So you kind of have to, okay, well, you know, let's see, we got positive going to pin 2. Well, then you come up here to pin 2. Okay, so the power comes in, it goes through there, it goes to pin 3. We also have to check over here, well, what's pin 3? Pin 3 is also connected to 1. So you kind of got to trace back and forth on there to find out what's going on. But best I can tell, these two right here, if you're running on AC, they're not even being used. So, unless there's, and they're at a 0 volt reference here on this center tap right here. So I may have to change those, but from the looks of things, the only place they go is to these two transistors. And these two transistors and that whole heatsink block on the back is actually, let's consider it an optional piece of equipment for the FT101. The FT101, I want to say EX, doesn't even have that on the back. So you didn't have DC capability on an FT101 EX. So if all else fails, I may just remove that if I don't feel comfortable firing the radio up with those in there. I think it's going to be okay just leaving them in there, even if they are bad. But that also seems to me like possibly, I'm guessing this radio's been run off of DC, and maybe they just got hot and started burning. It's possible. I also need to get underneath this cover over here. There are some capacitors underneath here that I need to check and probably replace if we're going to go forward with the radio. There's one that's kind of over here that tends to short. It feeds to the final part. When we initially turn this radio on, and I'm hoping we're going to get to that point pretty soon, but I want to make sure I got everything cleaned up first. I'm not going to replace any components in the radio until we see if we can fire it up. If it fires up and it's receiving, we'll go from there. We're going to evaluate this one step at a time, because this could get quite expensive in buying parts and then find out it's not even worth buying those parts. So we're going to take it one step at a time to evaluate whether it's worth continuing with. Let's see here. One other thing I want to point out, and this could be a deal breaker on the radio. If you'll notice right in the center of your screen, if I can ever get my camera to stay where I want it to. Right here, this is the plate choke. Goes to the plates. Feeds the 600 volts, I want to say, to the plates through this, and the RF, it blocks the RF basically from going back down the RF chain there. So that the RF just goes to the tank circuit. If you'll notice right here, this is pretty dark right here. It looks like it's gotten hot, maybe kind of a little melted. I don't know if y'all can probably see that pretty good. Let me put some more light on it, see if it's gonna come back. You'll notice that several of these are kind of dark. So I'm hoping that they're not shorted. You can also see that this is supposed to be white. It's definitely gotten dark, and the coating on the wires looks like it's melted. So I'm hoping it's not shorted out, or if that it's not, that it doesn't have a broken wire in there. I've literally looked around trying to find one of those, and I can't. So that might be a deal breaker on this radio as well. We're just gonna have to see. I still got to go in here, and I'm going to clean all of these connectors up, and I will clean the strips on the cards, just using some contact cleaner, get any oxidation off of them. At that point, we'll probably hook up a current limiting dim bulb tester and try to turn the radio on. We'll use that because if there is some caps that are shorted, if there's a short in the radio, it'll limit the current and save the fuse. Keep me from popping the breaker here in the radio room, and hopefully limit any more damage to the radio if there's a short. That'll probably come hopefully pretty shortly. I want to finish getting this cleaned up as good as possible, and then we'll try to turn it on. I like to have a clean radio to work on. If it does fire up and it shows some signs of life, we'll continue on from there, and it'll make it easier with a cleaner radio. It's not going to be covered in dust. We'll evaluate, is it worth going ahead and getting a recap kit for it, and finding all of the mica capacitors for the audio board. The other boards have some of those capacitors on them, but I'm not seeing cracks in them. Of course, I haven't cleaned this board off yet. Once I get the dust and everything off of there, I might find something else, cracks or something. The antenna relay, I'll probably pop the top off on it and get in there and clean up the contacts on it. If if the radio is going to try and work and receive, let's make sure that signal's getting through here, because this is just about the first thing it goes through, minus the little light bulb that's on the back that basically acts as a surge protector for the radio. So that's pretty much where we're at. Cleaning up boards, looking them over, seeing if there's anything seriously wrong on them. I don't see any burnt components on any of the boards, save that one that's on the bottom. And that one might have been replaced. It had a lot of burn underneath it, but it's white. So I'm thinking possibly that's been replaced. Other than that, like I said, I got the tubes. They're sitting out in some shredded paper, just hanging out and protected. And I'm going to continue cleaning. Probably and hopefully in the next video, I will have it all cleaned up, or at least the dust cleaned off of everything. It takes a little time. You know, I've been going in with a Q-tip and trying to get in between everything, getting the boards cleaned off, trying to clean off the components as much as possible. I'm not shoving down in here real hard, you know, bending stuff around, but just trying to get it all cleaned up. And then we'll put it back in there, and hopefully in the next video we can hook it up to a dim bulb tester, turn it on, and see if it does anything. If it does, we're definitely going to continue forward. If it doesn't, we'll probably visit to see if there's anything obviously wrong with it that might be a quick fix or something, or it could be one of the capacitors. And it might take a recap to even go forward from there, but like I said, one step at a time and see where we're at. That's just an update on the FT101E, our journey on a, and maybe true, told it was a dead radio that wasn't worth bringing back to life. Well, I'm not quite to that point yet, but there are some things in here that definitely need some attention, and haven't seen any attention in 49 years, or pretty close to it. So thanks for stopping back by the radio room, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.